Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. Between laggy Cyrodiil, BG's being kind of meh lately, Gina Bruno finally released. It says to ensure that the game can run as smoothly as possible, we're going to disable the activity finder basically until further notice. So if you're a BG streamer like me, that means you now have zero content. So I kind of was annoyed because BG's basically they fucked up the group finder so that it allowed for pre-mades to get into BG's faster than solo queuers. As a solo queue, it'd be like 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes for a solo queue, up from like 3 minutes. I think between like 2 to 4 minutes on a queue was like normal. And then I started noticing all these pre-mades. I was like, why is it every time I catch one guy alone, like literally like his whole entire team just comes right at me? And then it was made public that, they fucked up the activity finder, and pre-mades who previously had a longer queue time were actually now having a shorter queue time than people who were solo queuing. So I was like, okay, that's why I'm getting fucked over on all my BGs. I'm getting all these solo plebs, and then I'm fighting pre-mades nonstop. It's basically pre-mades nonstop. So like, fuck, this is just like Cyrodiil. The moment I get encountered by one person, like a Zerg just comes over, his entire team just comes over and 1v4s me, or 4v1s me. So then ZeniMax went and says, well, we don't know what the fuck's going on, so we're going to disable queue finder. And that basically means that you can't start a BG because the BG is solely off of the queue finder. So now your only content you play ESO is open world Cyrodiil. And I was like, I'll pass. So I think a lot of people, I mean, if you've read the forums lately, the forums have been in an uproar. And I think this really sums up what the vast majority of people should be doing, which is I canceled my ESO subscription. Playing without it is unpleasant, which I agree. But I don't think I can play anymore when it runs out, and I agree. Because there's a lot of little shit, especially if you have like a lot of builds. Like I run like probably around 40 builds. Right? I run like 40 different builds. I play every single class. I play them both Stamina, Magicka, and Hybrid. And I play them as well as support builds. So if you got one character, you play them at least 3 different ways. And I got 12 of them. So simple math. Plus I play all different variations of those builds. I'm like a brawler or a tank, support build, etc. So it's like I'd have to sit there and craft all those little chests, and I was like, oh, I gotta do all that shit. I was like, there's a lot of other games out there that put out better content, because ESO is just not looking to do their player base, especially their PvP player base, as it continually diminishes, because with the continuous poor service that we get, people just leave. And so as that community starts to wind down, more and more ESO has, ZeniMax has no reason to make any changes for that group. It'll come to the point where they're just like, fuck it, let's just that portion of the side of the game go to the side, and let's just focus and try to leech as much as we can from the PvE community until that community dies. Which is why there have been no changes. There've literally been, I can honestly say that there have been no changes in terms of PvP outside of like putting in new spawns in open world Cyrodiil and changing the flags in Cyrodiil and IC. The reason being is because both Battlegrounds and Imperial City were both available to play at release, right? The reason that they didn't release Battlegrounds at release was because we were having issues with the matchmaking. Guess fucking what? 5 years later, you still have issues with the matchmaking. They held it to sell it. That's the purpose. Just like IC. The vast majority of the content in ESO was available if you played at release, like early in the alphas, and what was shown, when they showed the game before it got released, was that Battlegrounds was there. Excuse me. I'm still getting over this cold. Is that both Battlegrounds and Imperial City were there. They were just like, oh, we held on to these things because they're not finished, which is bullshit. They held on to it so that they can sell it later on to you in a subscription or as a separate package. And that's basically the state. So literally, there have been no changes to PvP, especially because when the vast majority of the players left 1.1 via the lighting patch, and ZeniMax never looked back. They were like, "Oh well, fuck it, let's go a different route." But the thing is that I understand how a lot of these players feel. I enjoy playing ESO. I had enjoyed playing it for the better part of 5 years. But realistically, I think for most of us, we were just lost in the nostalgia of what the game was and what the game could be. And that's what keeps most players playing. And that's what ZeniMax Online Studios counts on. That you, as a subscriber or as a player, are like, yeah, if they would only make this change, or if they would just update, when they make updates, don't make them so large, or why don't they make more updates, etc. And the reality is that there is no intention for them to do that, right? The changes that are made are intentionally made. It's important to understand, because there's no way that you can be that level of incompetent accidentally. It's all done purposefully. One, to keep players. That's why every single patch they're like, oh yeah, we're working on open world Citadel, right? They're trying to hold on to the open world Citadel player base as long as they can, because what do? They inflate their numbers of players, right? Because those players do get forced to do PvE because of new shit that comes out in in whatever it is that they're playing. When it comes to like either open world. Excuse me. No. When it comes to like doing dungeons and trials and stuff. So they count on those players to artificially inflate even their PvE numbers. So they hold on to them as long as possible, which is why they're like, oh, they keep saying, oh yeah, we're gonna make these changes, right? We're gonna change the way the servers work, or we're gonna change the way memory leak, etc. And it's just all bullshit just to get you to hold on a little longer, right? We need those numbers up a little bit longer. We can draw in more players. They've even isolated their endgame PvE players, right? There's no new content. There's no new PvE content that came out in Dragonhold. There's no new trials, no new dungeons, nothing. Just a story that's done intentionally. The least amount of effort for the maximum reward. And so if you're still playing and you're facing these exact same situation where you're kind of frustrated, you're like, I'm not going to pay for ESO anymore. But the real question is, will you still play ESO? Because all you do is you artificially keep their numbers up. You make the game look more populated than it should be, which then draws in newer players, because they're like, oh, it looks fairly populated. I'll subscribe, I'll join, I'll buy, etc. And all you do is you help sucker in new people. That's what One Tamriel was. When they changed over to One Tamriel, it was because the game looked empty, because it was empty. The game looked empty because it was empty. People, like when I played prior to One Tamriel, that's all you saw in the forums. The game looks so empty. Every time I go to a different zone, I'm looking for people to group with, and there's nobody there. So they got rid of One Tamriel, where the faction was split, then mushed the remaining people to make the game look more populated than it really was. And of course, that drew in more people because the game was dying. The game was dying at that point. And so it is, coming around. ESO has not learned from its mistakes, and it intentionally is not learning from its mistakes because of subscribers like you and me. Because of players like you and me who continually to play the game, or people who do subscribe. I mean, I've never bought anything from the Crown Store outside of, I think one time I did buy something from the Crown Store way back, where I didn't have enough crowns and I was like, oh, I wanted to buy something. I spent like $10 or something on crowns. But that's what they count on. They count on that one guy who's still paying $15, playing the game, keeping the population numbers looking up. Who's PvPing is like, oh, if only they would do X, Y, or Z. The PvP content creators who draw in more people with this is what's overpowered for the next. So that's why I decided, in my last stream, it was so buggy. I was getting so frustrated. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to play this anymore. I just uninstalled it from my computer and then moved on to other games that actually work, which is the crazy part. Like, you play, there's so much available out there for the gaming community that, in my opinion, there are better options. There are better options than playing, because a lot of us who have played have always played under the pretense, oh, they promised they're going to make this change, or if only they just did it this way, things would be so much better. But the reality is that it's never going to go that route. And so for one ESO, community member to another, in my opinion, and move on. If you are a PvP player, there's better things out there for you. Go out there and look.